with the demonetization story that happened. That's a big currency reform with, it was a dream for a digital officer. If you have to try and do something like this, a process that would have taken maybe 2 to 3 years happened in a period of 3 months. The kind of adoption that happened, yeah, there were fallouts after that, but as we speak, 1 year down the line, there is a new normal. The number of people who are digitally active, digitally penetrated is touching around 40% of the population. The cash to digital ratio has improved, and we are seeing people who went through the trial out of force. A big chunk continues to remain, and that's a big legacy that demonetization helped. Combine that with GST. GST reforms, which is actually trying to drive away the black economy, maybe reduce corruption in a way. But what it is creating is bringing a completely excluded population, like the small and medium enterprises, into the banking domain. The data, the kind of taxation that they're filing. Even if you were to not to pay the taxes, there is a limit, and this is creating a huge data exhaust. So combination of demonetization, which is the currency reforms, GST, and then combine that with UPI, which is I think a big deal for all of us. It has completely revolutionized the way people make payments. Yeah, the story is now being played out on the P2P segment, the person to person. The moment the P2M, the person to the merchant start off, I think that's going to be a fantastic change. I mean, then you're talking about debit card and credit card getting leapfrogged ahead and a completely new way of commerce coming into picture. So that's the play. Multiple forces working in tandem, organization like ours, the fintech community, the government playing a very active role and trying to jump onto this bandwagon.
And I think the government's role is quite interesting in that, as you mentioned, you've got over 1 billion people now with the Aadhaar program for digital identity. And having built this India stack, the government then pushed through with demonetization, which was under the auspice of getting rid of criminal activities using cash.
Correct.
With the 500,000 rupee notes. But most of that cash was returned to the government, central bank. So actually it was really a push to make India cashless. And I think that's moved India quite a long way forward, looking at how many mobile payments accounts, for example, are now in the country.
Yeah, the term that we use is less cash rather than cashless, because India at the end of the day is still 2 components, what we call as India, which is the urbanized world, wherein whatever you said applies completely. But there is another India called the Bharat, which is our rural and the semi-urban markets, which is sort of coming up, but there is still a way to go. So how do we exist between these 2 worlds? There is a cash world which will exist, but how do you ensure that leakages are removed? So the combination of a Jan Dhan account has been primarily driven, the Aadhaar Jan Dhan mobile combination was primarily driven to do what we call as direct benefit transfers. Earlier it used to be a completely convoluted process resulting in a huge leakage of government money. Now you have a mechanism by which it hits your account, and people like us who would not be wanting the DBT are actually willing to give it away, and that drives the economy. So it's got a very strong social perspective, reduction of leakage, ability to bring people into a banking economy, creating what I think another element that is all a nice a byproduct of all this is India technically is becoming a digitally rich nation. It used to be a data poor nation. It's becoming a data rich nation. I mean, just imagine as these guys come into the bureaus or even the alternative mechanisms, as the file keeps improving, the lending mechanism would begin in, and that would sort of kick into a virtuous cycle, hopefully driving us from a per capita income of $1,800, maybe 2,000 plus, and that's where the magic is going to happen in our perspective.
And number one, we've got this multi-bazillion dollar cost of hacks, and then on top of that, now we've got this issue of not having enough people to really deal with it. And this is a hard one because the truth is that if you really think about it, most hackers, most programmers the reason they work with computers is they suck dealing with people. Okay? So they're very good if you leave them alone in the dungeon for them to do what they do. But when it comes to interacting with people, they're very bad. So when you start getting into the issue of management, then you really have a serious shortage, a serious scarcity when it comes to these resources. The fact that anyone can really get any of these tools, and it's always been that way, makes now everyone a potential hacker. The average detection time, keep this in mind, is 229 days before you find out you've been hacked. 229 days, not 2 weeks, not a month, but 229 days is the average. And I can tell you that this is true because having links on both the dark side and the light side, it's kind of the Star Wars here, right? The Jedis, there's bad guys and good guys, and you have to understand the Force. And so on both sides of this, the truth is I know of guys, if you will, that have had access for years to a number of large corporations, and they don't even know it yet.
Criminals are becoming increasingly more sophisticated. They are using, as this attack shows, the same techniques, the same underlying machine learning technology that many of the companies use to put up defenses. And it's also in the hands of many criminals that they really know how to build these stacks themselves. And typical artificial intelligence that, they're just typically sprinkled on top of defense systems are not enough. You need to have purpose-built, fully integrated platforms to back this up. AI alone is not enough. Other than the risks of criminals harmed with better technology, there are other risks when people think about AI and how to apply it into our industry. There's the risk of what you'd call unchecked AI itself, when it's just not being created thoughtfully, not properly approved, and not having humans on the loop to decide when is AI deployed, when is it put into production. An AI that's being created without regards to these risks should simply not be used. And so what do we do about these risks? In a world where AI is certainly one of our most important tools, we need to really explain and control AI. We need to have a system where AI is not being built by someone in a back office, by some engineer. We need to make sure that these machine learning systems are attainable. We need to do that. And more importantly, we need to have systems that essentially allow us to explain what's going on inside these AI systems. Systems are typically what you'd call black box. Systems that they give you a score, but you don't really know what's going on inside. To fully understand and control AI, you need to explain what goes inside the machine. Explainable AI is essentially allowing to have these systems that you can penetrate and for compliance, auditing reasons, understand what's inside of the machine learning systems. And to be controlled not only by the engineers or the data scientists that built them, but by the decision makers, the business leaders that promote these systems to production. And this leads to the final and third point, which is we need to, all together as an industry, we need to talk about AI. We need to discuss these issues. If we're going to understand the benefits of AI to fintech, to the industry, we need to talk also about the risks that it poses, the risks that uncontrolled AI, unexplained AI has. And this is why we at FEEDZAI are launching what we call FEEDZAI Frontiers, which is essentially we're bringing expert thought leaders from different companies that compose the ecosystem, different industries, to talk to us about how AI is being deployed and to share these important ideas on stages like this.
It's a very interesting gear change, because we go from having a conversation out in the floor with startups who are playing in the hundreds of customers to Google that thinks in the billions. And one of the things that I found very interesting about TAZE is that it doesn't target one demographic. Most of the solutions we see in the digital payment space either go for inclusion or target a particular subset. It could be youth, it could be a rising middle class. But TAZE is actively touching every single one of those demographics and successfully so solving the access problem, but also picking up on those on those distinctive behaviors. As we're coming to a close, how does that transplant to other economies and other countries as not necessarily this identical product, but the notion expands beyond India?
So I think we've been surprised by ourselves by the sort of the breadth of the response across India. So we have users across 200,000 different villages, towns, and cities in India, which is more than a third of the total number of places to live out there. More than 2/3 of our transactions come from outside the 7 major cities in India. So it is a very broad-based access. I think that's the fantastic thing, again, about this point in time. I mean, you're starting to see smartphone penetration really taking off in most of these markets. India's done a particularly good job on infrastructure building and bringing down the cost of smartphones, but we're seeing that activity across Asia, across Africa, and across the Middle East. And if you see the power of that to place in the hands of people a device with which they can do things at a much smaller scale, in a much more accessible way, and can really personalize their experience, that enables you to appeal to a much, much broader group of people and create products that are compelling across different demographics. And I think that's equally exciting across Asia and the rest of global growth markets.
There's something we'd like to share with you today, which we are excited about. As we are building our company, as we're expanding internationally, there's of course ongoing work. And the beautiful thing we can announce is that per today, we're formally announcing that we're bringing this experience to Singapore. So the ATM point of sale solution is now also live and available in Singapore for our merchants. This means that it's live today. The Zest Group out here in Singapore, who run ABC Boulangerie, they're live today on Killarney Street, so you can actually see the ATM solution at work in a live setup. Thank you so much.
Last year, we set up ATAC. We hope ATAC will be an open platform for industry leaders, for our partners, and for ourselves to share our vision, our challenges, and our solutions. We hope ATAC will be an open platform for us to consensus what's happening now and what will be the next future. I feel very grateful to have industry leaders to share their thoughts with us. There are guests from IFC, from Singapore Mass, and from Southeast Asia leading digital companies. I'm eager to learn from them on how to use technologies to serve global users and merchants. Last year, NUNO Financial has made a lot of progress in digital technologies. For example, we have upgraded our blockchain system to be of industry grade and applied it in various use cases. And we're ready to open it to the public to share its value. And for AI, AI has powered all our services and greatly improved our core capabilities of the trust, risk, and connection to people. And for the security, last year we have upgraded our security engine, and we have breakthroughs in our biometric system to empower new user experience, such as Smile to Pay. For the IoT area, we have worked with our partners to build some experimental stores with a take-and-go user experience without cashiers. And for the computing area, we are upgrading our computing platform and opening it to our bank partners to support them to build next generation digital banks. In this afternoon, technology experts from NUNO Financial will share their experience in building NUNO Financial systems and our technologies. Hope in this afternoon we can have a deeper dive into NUNO Financial and its technologies. So a big thank you to all our speakers, a big thank you to Money2020, and a big thank you to our audience. Hope this afternoon will be a happy and fruitful afternoon. Thank you.